It was supposed to be an ordinary Friday night at the middle school. Parents crowded into the auditorium, carrying flowers wrapped in paper, eager to see their children perform in the spring concert. The smell of cafeteria pizza still lingered in the hallway, and the chatter of families filled the space with a warm kind of noise. Kids in crisp shirts and borrowed ties tuned their instruments, the squeak of a clarinet mixing with the nervous laughter of teenagers who hoped they wouldn't miss their cue. From the outside, it looked like a scene no different from 100 other towns across America. But Aaron never watched these nights the same way other parents did. He wasn't sitting in the centre rows with a bouquet of roses or juggling a camera phone to record every note. He had slipped quietly into a seat near the side doors, the kind that faced the exit and gave him a view of the hallway. To most, it was just the habit of a man who worked in maintenance, someone who knew the school like the back of his hand. To Aaron, it was more than habit. It was instinct built from years of noticing when something didn't feel right. His daughter sat a few rows up with her friends, waving back at him before diving into her music program. She was the only reason he showed up in a clean shirt tonight. The only reason he kept putting one foot in front of the other on days when the world felt heavier than it should. She thought of him as the man who swept the hallways, fixed leaky faucets, and stayed late to mop up after basketball games. That was all he wanted her to see, nothing more, nothing less. The band began to play their opening piece, a shaky but charming rendition of America the Beautiful. The audience hushed, proud parents smiling, phones lifted to catch the moment. Aaron tried to let himself relax, tried to believe that tonight was just another safe evening in a safe town. But out of the corner of his eye, he noticed something that made his stomach tighten. The side door by the loading dock should have clicked shut with that familiar squeak he had oiled 100 times. Instead, it hung open by a fraction, no more than the width of a hand. And there it was. A hand, pale fingers curled around the edge of the metal frame, holding it just wide enough for someone to slip through. Aaron's pulse quickened. He didn't jump up, didn't shout. Years of quiet vigilance had taught him that panic only made things worse. He watched for one long second, long enough to be sure it wasn't a late parent trying to sneak in. The fingers flexed, steady, deliberate. This was not someone fumbling, this was someone waiting. He glanced toward the stage. The kids kept playing, unaware. Parents swayed softly in their seats, some humming along. No one else had noticed. No one else ever did. Aaron rose slowly, his chair scraping lightly against the polished floor. He moved with the calm precision of a man who had spent his life fixing problems before anyone else even knew they existed. He walked toward the panel on the wall, the one he checked every morning when he opened the building. His hand hovered over the switch he had never once used in front of a crowd. Hard lockdown. He thought of his daughter laughing in her seat, cradling her clarinet like it was a fragile treasure. He thought of the parents who trusted this building to be safe, and he thought of the hand still resting on the door, waiting. With one steady breath, Aaron pressed the switch. The sound was immediate. Heavy bolts slid into place with a deep metallic thud, doors sealing across the building. Red lights flashed above the exits. The music on stage faltered, a trumpet squeaking out of tune before silence fell. Every head in the auditorium turned. The only sound was the echo of locks falling into place. Outside the door, the hand vanished. Whoever had been holding it open jerked away, startled by the sudden lockdown. In the confusion, a shadow darted down the alley and disappeared into the night. Inside, the families looked around, whispers spreading like fire. Some clutched their children, others stared at Aaron with wide eyes. To them, it might have looked like an overreaction, a false alarm, an unnecessary scare on a night meant for music and celebration. To Aaron, it was mucking seconds that might have made all the difference. He stood by the panel, heart pounding, wishing for once that he had been wrong. For a heartbeat, the auditorium felt frozen. The music had cut off mid-note, the red lights above the exits still pulsed, and no one seemed to know whether to clap, scream, or simply hold their breath. Children shifted in their seats, whispering, their bows still raised on violin strings. Parents craned their necks, looking from one face to another for answers. The silence stretched in a way that made every sound louder than it was. A dropped program fluttering to the floor, the cough of an old man in the back row, the nervous shuffle of sneakers on the wooden stage. Aaron stayed by the wall, his hand still hovering near the panel. He knew exactly what he had done, and he knew why. But in that moment, with dozens of eyes on him, he felt like a man standing in a spotlight he never wanted. He didn't look heroic. He looked like the janitor who had just ruined a concert. A few parents stood up. "What's going on?" one demanded, his voice echoing across the room. Another mother pulled her child close, whispering that everything was fine even though her own hands were shaking. And somewhere in the confusion, a phone was already raised, capturing the scene on video. 15 seconds. That was all it had taken. The door had slammed shut, the stranger outside had slipped away, and an ordinary Friday night had been cracked open like glass. On stage, the band director lowered her arms, scanning the crowd. "Please, everyone, remain calm," she called out, though her voice betrayed her own unease. Teachers moved quietly through the aisles, trying to reassure families. But reassurance was hard when no one understood what had just happened. Aaron's daughter twisted in her seat, searching for him. When she found his face near the wall, she frowned, confused, her clarinet resting limply in her lap. He gave her the smallest nod he could manage, the kind a father gives to say, "You're safe, just breathe." Outside the building, the night was still. A couple of parents who had arrived late banged on the doors, startled by the sudden lockdown. They couldn't get in, and no one inside could let them. Someone muttered that it was probably a false alarm. Someone else muttered it was unnecessary. And slowly the tension turned toward Aaron. He could hear it in the whispers. He pushed the button. Why now? What did he see? The truth was simple, but explaining it out loud felt impossible. What parent would believe that a man who cleaned floors had noticed the flicker of a hand and trusted his instincts over everyone's comfort? A security officer finally hurried down the aisle, called by the alarm. He nodded to Aaron, then began checking the doors, speaking into his radio. Procedure was being followed. The system had worked exactly the way it was meant to. But the faces of the parents said something else. Fear, irritation, and the growing suspicion that one man had overstepped. 15 seconds had ended, but the ripple of those seconds was only beginning. Aaron sat back down slowly, his chest tight, his hands still trembling from the choice he had made. Across the room, a father in a blue polo shirt raised his phone higher, whispering into it as if narrating the event. That video would be online within minutes. His daughter turned once more, eyes wide, silently asking the question he feared most. "Daddy, did you do the right thing?" Aaron didn't answer. He just folded his hands together, staring at the locked doors, knowing that whatever came next, those 15 seconds would follow him far beyond this concert hall. By the time families had filed out into the parking lot, the video was already spreading. A shaky clip filmed from the middle rows showed the flashing red lights, the music stopping, and a man in a work shirt standing by the wall like he had just pulled a fire alarm. The caption read, "Janitor shuts down entire concert. Overreacting much?" Within the hour, it was on the local community Facebook page. Comments stacked up fast, a mix of gratitude and anger. "Better safe than sorry. That man probably saved our kids. This is trauma theatre, unnecessary and reckless." People who hadn't even been there were suddenly sure they knew exactly what had happened. Aaron scrolled through the feed in his small kitchen later that night, his daughter asleep on the couch, with her clarinet case beside her. The glow of the phone lit his face as line after line of strangers judged him. Hero, idiot, protector, coward. Every word seemed to pull him in a different direction, none of them matching the man he knew himself to be. Then came a live video from a parent who had stormed out angry. The man spoke straight into his camera, his voice sharp with self-importance. "This isn't the first time he's overreacted. Ask around. He pulled the fire alarm 3 years ago for a burnt toaster in the teacher's lounge. That's who he is, always looking for drama." It wasn't true, not the way the man told it. Aaron had pulled the alarm because the smoke had been thick and kids had been nearby. But the internet didn't want details, it wanted drama. In the comments, people started asking whether tonight was just another stunt, whether the janitor wanted attention. The story twisted faster than Aaron could defend himself. By morning, reporters had called the district office asking for statements. The superintendent released a short message. "We are reviewing the incident to ensure all safety procedures were followed." It sounded neutral, but Aaron knew what it meant. He had been suspended before his shift even started. He tried to hide it from his daughter, but she noticed the change in his face. Over cereal, she asked softly, "Daddy, are you in trouble?" Her eyes were too serious for a girl her age. He forced a smile, telling her everything was fine, that sometimes grown-ups argued about things they didn't understand. But as she picked at her breakfast, he wondered how long he could keep the truth from her. He had always promised her a steady life, a normal life. Yet one decision, one instinct in 15 seconds, now threatened to take that away. That night, while the town debated in comment sections and parents whispered in grocery aisles, Aaron sat alone at the kitchen table with a cup of cold coffee. He thought about how quickly the story had spun out of his hands. He hadn't wanted to be a hero. He hadn't wanted to be a headline. All he had wanted was to keep the people in that auditorium safe. But the world was already deciding who he was, and none of the choices felt like the truth. Aaron had gotten used to the sideways looks at the grocery store, but that Saturday morning one of them stopped him in his tracks. A woman in a red jacket stood by the produce section, her son clutching a saxophone case almost bigger than he was. She gave Aaron a hesitant smile before walking over. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said quietly. Aaron blinked, caught off guard. "For what?" "For pressing that button," she replied. "I know some people are angry, but I was close to that side door. I saw the hand too, and I know it wasn't just some late parent trying to sneak in." He studied her for a moment. She looked tired, not in the way of someone who had stayed up too late, but in the way of someone carrying a weight too heavy to set down. "I'm Lena," she added. "My boy plays saxophone in the band. We've crossed paths before, but I doubt you noticed." Aaron nodded slowly. He remembered now. She had been sitting just a few rows away the night of the concert. "You think that man at the door was there for you?" he asked carefully. Her eyes flickered. "I don't think. I know. I've been getting messages lately. Anonymous, but specific enough to scare me. They've told me to stop showing up at meetings, to keep my head down. Friday night, when I saw that door move, I knew exactly what it meant." Aaron felt his chest tighten. He wanted to believe she was wrong, that maybe fear had coloured her memory, but he remembered the steady grip on that doorframe, the way the fingers had flexed, like they were waiting for the right moment. "Why tell me?" he asked. "Because you're the only one who acted," she said simply. "Everyone else froze. You saw what I saw and you did something. That makes you part of this, whether you wanted it or not." Aaron didn't know what to say. He thought of his daughter, humming over her colouring book at the kitchen table. He thought of the neighbours who now crossed the street to avoid him. He wanted a simple life, the kind where his biggest worry was a leaky faucet or a squeaky stage door. But life rarely asked what he wanted. That evening, when he returned home, a folded slip of paper waited under his apartment door. The same thick black marker as before spelled out a new warning: "Stay out of what isn't yours." Aaron stood frozen in the hallway, the note shaking in his hand. Somewhere in town, people were whispering about whether he had overreacted. And somewhere else, someone was making it very clear that he had stepped too close to something he didn't yet understand. Aaron kept the note folded in his pocket all weekend, as if the weight of the paper itself might remind him to stay quiet. He tried to go through the motions: laundry, groceries, Saturday chores, but his mind kept circling back to the 6 words scrawled in black marker. "Stay out of what isn't yours." By Sunday evening, he drove back to the school to finish a repair he'd promised. The building was quiet, halls dark except for the faint hum of vending machines. He moved through the gym and past the main office until he reached the small room where the lockdown panel was mounted. He ran his hand over the casing. The last time he had pressed that button, the system had jolted to life exactly as it was supposed to. But now, standing in the silence, he noticed something that unsettled him. A set of wires near the base had been replaced, newer than the rest, taped over with a strip that didn't match district standards. It was the kind of shortcut he had seen contractors use when they wanted to pass inspection without really fixing the problem. He crouched down, frowning. The system had always been temperamental. Half the time it triggered false alarms during testing, half the time it froze altogether. Parents thought the district was investing in safety, but Aaron knew better. Safety that looked official on paper, but barely worked in real life. That night he called Lena. He didn't want to, but he couldn't shake the feeling that her story about the vendor wasn't just paranoia. When she picked up, her voice was low, careful. "You found something, didn't you?" He told her about the wires, the taped repairs. She sighed. "That's exactly what I've been seeing in the contracts. They bill the district for premium security equipment, then substitute cheaper parts. The reports look fine because they test just enough to pass, but when it matters..." Her words trailed off. She didn't have to finish. Aaron leaned against the wall, staring down the dark hallway. "And Friday night, you think that was connected?" "I don't think," Lena replied. "I know. The vendor has friends on the board. They don't want anyone asking questions about safety failures. I was warned not to push, and then someone showed up at that door." Aaron rubbed a hand over his face. He had always told himself his job was simple: fix what breaks, sweep what spills, keep the lights on. But now the cracks in the system felt bigger than broken pipes or burned out bulbs. They were cracks that could swallow people whole. When he got home, his daughter was waiting up with her homework spread across the table. She looked up and asked if he had fixed the leak in the science room sink. He nodded, forcing a smile, but inside he felt split in two. On one side was the promise he had made her: a quiet life, nothing dangerous. On the other was the reality Lena had laid in front of him: corruption, threats, and the kind of silence that let danger slip into places meant to be safe. Later that night, as he stepped out to take the trash, he noticed something that froze him. The driver's side door of his car hung slightly open. He was certain he had locked it. Inside, nothing was missing. The radio, the tools, even the loose change in the cup holder were untouched. Only the glove compartment had been left ajar, papers scattered as if someone had rifled through them and then walked away. Aaron stood in the driveway, the cool night air stinging his face. Whoever had been there wasn't after money. They wanted him to know he was being watched. He gathered the papers slowly, his hands trembling. He thought about his daughter asleep inside, safe for now. And he thought about Lena standing in her red jacket, insisting he had already stepped into something much larger. Maybe she was right. Maybe those 15 seconds at the concert hadn't just locked the doors of a school. Maybe they had opened a door he could never close again. The cafeteria felt different that night. Gone were the laughter and music from the spring concert. In their place was the low rumble of angry parents, the hum of reporters setting up cameras, and the metallic squeal of folding chairs scraped against the floor. At the front, the board members sat stiff behind a long table, papers stacked high but faces unreadable. Aaron slipped into the back row, hoping to stay invisible. He wore his work shirt because it was the only thing he owned that felt honest, though he tugged at the sleeves as if they didn't fit right anymore. His daughter was home with a neighbour, still asking why her dad was in so much trouble. The chairwoman tapped the microphone. "We're here tonight to discuss the events of last Friday. We ask everyone to remain respectful." Respect lasted less than a minute. A father stood up, red-faced. "My son still wakes up at night because of that lockdown. Who gave a janitor the right to terrify children?" Murmurs of agreement followed, though just as many shook their heads. A mother countered, her voice trembling. "And if he hadn't done it, what if there really had been danger? I'd rather have my child scared for a few minutes than see her name in the news for something worse." Applause broke out. The tension seesawed between anger and gratitude, the air thick with judgment. Aaron sat still, wishing he could shrink into the chair. But then Lena rose. Her voice was clear, stronger than he expected. "I was near that side door. I saw the hand holding it open. I don't care what anyone says. This man might have prevented something terrible." Gasps rippled across the room. A board member whispered to the one beside him, both looking uneasy. That was when an older trustee, Mr. Daniels, leaned toward his microphone. Normally quiet, the kind of man who voted without ever explaining why, his voice carried a different weight tonight. "I've kept my mouth shut too long," he said, his tone low but steady. 2 years ago, my own daughter was in the gym when the alarm system failed during a drill. Doors that were supposed to lock didn't. We brushed it off as a glitch, but I knew better. I raised concerns about the vendor and no one wanted to hear it. Maybe now people will finally pay attention. The room went silent, then erupted all at once. Reporters scribbling, parents shouting, cameras flashing. The chairwoman banged her gavel, but order was gone. Aaron felt every eye swing toward him. The murmurs grew louder. Let him speak. We deserve to hear from him. He rose slowly, his legs heavier than stone, and walked to the microphone. Dozens of faces stared back, some filled with doubt, others with something softer, hope. "I'm not here to be a hero," Aaron said, his voice rough but steady. "I pressed that button because I saw something wrong. That's it. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was luck. But I'd rather children go home safe and parents angry than the other way around." For a moment the room held its breath. Then, without a word, Aaron stepped back. He wasn't trying to win applause, he just wanted the truth to matter. And for the first time, he felt the tide begin to shift. The board meeting had ended in a storm of voices, reporters, and flashing cameras. For a brief moment, Aaron thought maybe things were changing. Parents had clapped, someone on the board had spoken out, and Lena's words had turned heads. But by midweek, reality caught up. On Wednesday, a thick envelope waited in his mailbox with the district seal across the front. He carried it back to his apartment without opening it, his hands sweaty against the paper. Only after his daughter had gone to bed did he finally tear it open. The letter was short, effective immediately. You are placed on administrative leave pending review of your conduct. Questions remain about your use of security systems without authorization. The words blurred as he read them again and again. 7 years of sweeping floors, patching walls, fixing every leaky faucet. Dismissed in a paragraph written by someone who never stayed late to clean up after a game. The next morning he packed his toolbox and walked out of the school, head down, avoiding the stares of teachers who didn't know what to say. For the first time in years, the halls that had been his second home felt like a place that no longer wanted him. At home, his daughter noticed the change right away. "Why are you here, Daddy? Don't you have to work?" "They told me to take some time off," he said, trying to sound casual. Her small face twisted with worry. "Is it because of the button?" Aaron crouched in front of her, brushing her hair back. "Sometimes when you do the right thing, people don't understand. It doesn't mean you were wrong." He kissed her forehead, but the look in her eyes told him she wasn't convinced. That afternoon, she came home from school quieter than usual. She set her backpack down and picked at her sandwich without eating. Finally, she whispered, "Some kids said you just wanted attention. They said you scared everyone for no reason." The words hit harder than the letter. Aaron reached across the table and took her hand. "I don't care if people call me names. What matters is that you're safe. That's all I ever wanted." Her eyes filled with tears. "But I don't want you to lose your job." Later that night, Aaron sat at the kitchen table with the bills spread out in front of him. Rent, electricity, notices marked past due. He thought of the neighbour who was kind enough to watch his daughter, but whispered with others in the hallway about the janitor who shut down the concert. He thought of the community he had served quietly for years, now turning its back. The cost of truth was no longer just whispers online. It was his paycheck, his reputation, and the fragile peace he had promised his daughter. Yet even under the weight of it, he knew in his bones those 15 seconds at the concert had not been a mistake. What he didn't know was whether he had the strength or the right to keep fighting, when fighting might take away the very stability his little girl needed most. By Friday, the silence in town felt heavier than words. At the grocery store, people who used to wave now steered their carts down another aisle. At the gas station, a man muttered just loud enough for Aaron to hear, "That's the guy who shut down the concert." It wasn't the anger that stung most. It was how quickly neighbours had begun to treat him like a stranger. That night, Lena called, her voice tight. "I just got another text. It said, 'Drop the case or your son's trip gets cut short.'" She exhaled sharply. "They're dragging our kids into this now, Aaron. This isn't just about us anymore." Aaron stared at the seahorse drawing taped to his fridge, the one his daughter had made after the concert. "That's a line they don't get to cross," he said quietly, but he knew they already had. The next morning he found a note taped to the windshield of his car. The same black marker as before, but this time the message was sharper, uglier. "Stop now, before your kid has to walk home alone." He yanked it off quickly, crumpling it in his fist before his daughter could see. She came running out with her backpack, asking if he'd remembered to pack her lunch. He forced a smile, buckled her into the car and drove to school with his hands gripping the wheel so tightly they ached. That afternoon he met Lena at the library. She had a folder tucked under her arm, her face pale but determined. She spread papers across the table. Invoices, receipts, contracts highlighted in yellow. "I finally found it," she said in a low voice. "Proof the district was billed for top-tier panels, but what they installed was cheaper junk. The signatures are right here. And one of the board members approved every invoice." Aaron flipped through the pages, his stomach sinking. It wasn't just broken systems, it was theft, corruption, betrayal by people who were supposed to protect kids. "They'll bury this," he muttered. "Not if we don't let them," Lena answered. "I've sent copies to a reporter I trust. She'll run a story by tomorrow. But once it goes public, we'll be targets. You need to be ready." Aaron leaned back, staring at the ceiling. He thought of the auditorium, of parents singing along while their kids played instruments, believing the locks would hold if danger came. He thought of the note in his pocket, the one that had dragged his daughter into the fight. And he thought of Lena's son, staring at his mother's slashed tyres just nights earlier. That evening, as he tucked his daughter into bed, she asked softly, "Daddy, will you still have your job when I play in the next concert?" Aaron swallowed hard. "I don't know, sweetheart." He brushed her hair back and kissed her forehead. "But I promise you this, when you're on that stage, you'll be safe, no matter what it costs me." She smiled sleepily, believing him. And in the dim glow of her nightlight, Aaron realised the choice had already been made. The next battle wouldn't be about saving his job. It would be about saving the truth. On Saturday morning, the front page of the Cedar Falls Chronicle carried a headline that stopped Aaron cold at the corner newsstand. "District vendor linked to security failures, board under fire." Beneath it was a grainy photo of the school doors glowing red during lockdown, and in the corner of the frame, barely visible, was Aaron himself, one hand on the panel. The article laid it bare. Invoices padded with fake charges, knock-off parts installed in critical systems, a board member who signed off on everyone. And tucked near the bottom was a line about a maintenance worker whose quick action at the spring concert had prevented a potential tragedy. For the first time in weeks, the words felt like a lifeline. By noon, the town was buzzing. At the diner, farmers argued over coffee cups, some shaking their heads at the corruption, others muttering that they'd known something was off for years. Parents who had once whispered about Aaron now stopped him in the street, saying thank you, some awkwardly, some with tears in their eyes. He accepted the words with a quiet nod, but inside a storm still raged. That evening, his daughter came running out of her room with her tablet. "Daddy, look!" On the screen was a video her class had made, kids holding up signs with words like, "Thank you, Mr. Aaron, and you kept us safe." She grinned, pride glowing in her eyes. "They don't think you ruined the concert anymore. They think you're a hero." Aaron's throat tightened. He pulled her into his arms, holding her longer than usual. For weeks he had been crushed under the weight of accusations and silence, but in that moment, with her small arms wrapped around his neck, he felt a piece of that weight lift. But the victory was not without cost. That same night, Lena's car tyres were slashed outside her apartment. A brick with a note wrapped around it was found near her doorstep. "Stop before your kids pay the price." The police came, took statements, shook their heads with sympathy, but offered little protection. When Aaron heard, his gut twisted. He had known they would push back, but seeing Lena's boy standing on the curb, staring at his mother's ruined car, turned anger into resolve. "This isn't just about contracts anymore," Lena said bitterly as they met outside the police station. "They're willing to scare children to protect themselves." Aaron nodded, his jaw tight. "Then we don't back down." The next board meeting was scheduled for Wednesday, and parents were already planning to pack the cafeteria again. Reporters promised to cover every word. For the first time, the people who had looked away were now demanding answers. Still, late that night as Aaron sat in his dim kitchen, he couldn't shake the memory of the notes, the car door left open, the threats that now had names and faces attached. He stared at his daughter asleep on the couch, her drawing of a dolphin clutched in her hand, and wondered how long innocence could survive in a town where power tried so hard to break it. The truth was out. The tide had shifted, but the fight was only beginning. The cafeteria overflowed that night. Parents squeezed into folding chairs, reporters balanced cameras on tripods, teachers stood along the walls. At the front, the school board shuffled papers, faces drawn and pale. Everyone knew the vote on the security contract was coming, but it wasn't just about contracts anymore, it was about trust. Aaron sat near the back, wishing for once that the floor would swallow him whole. He didn't want more attention. He wanted his daughter to grow up in a town where safety wasn't something people argued about. But the tide had carried him here, whether he liked it or not. Lena stood at the microphone, calm but fierce. She laid out the invoices, the fake repairs, the signatures. Parents gasped, whispering angrily to one another. A board member tried to object, but another trustee, the one who had broken silence before, confirmed what she said. "We've ignored this too long. The vendor cut corners, and our children paid the risk." When the vote came, every hand went up. The contract was terminated. For a moment, the room seemed to exhale as one. Aaron thought it was over until a teacher rose from the second row. "Before we close tonight," she said gently, "I'd like to share something." She held up a piece of paper. "One of my students wrote this as part of an essay assignment. She doesn't know I'm reading it now, but I think it matters." Aaron froze. He recognized the handwriting even from where he sat. The teacher began. "My dad is a janitor, but that's not all. He fixes doors, he cleans floors, and he makes kids laugh when they're scared. At the concert, he pressed a button that kept us safe, even if some people didn't understand. He taught me that being brave doesn't always mean people clap for you. Sometimes it just means you do the right thing anyway. I want to be like him when I grow up." The room went quiet. A few parents wiped their eyes. Aaron stared at his hands, fighting back a flood of emotion. When the meeting adjourned, strangers stopped him in the hallway. Some shook his hand, others simply touched his arm and said, "Thank you." He accepted the words quietly, but inside all he could think of was the look on his daughter's face when she realised her essay had been heard. That night, as they walked home under the soft glow of the streetlights, she slipped her hand into his. "Are you happy now, Daddy?" she asked. Aaron looked down at her, at the trust in her eyes. "I am," he said softly. "Not because of what they decided tonight, but because of what you wrote." At home, she set her clarinet case on the table and pulled out her sketchbook. She began drawing the school, its doors closed tight, with her father standing quietly near the entrance. She added herself beside him, smiling. Aaron watched her in the dim kitchen light and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not the peace of being invisible, but the peace of knowing he had faced the truth, and that his daughter would grow up understanding the difference between staying silent and standing up when it mattered. The board would rebuild, headlines would fade, but in one small apartment a little girl would always remember that her father, the man who swept floors and fixed squeaky doors, was the one who kept her safe when it counted most. And for Aaron, that was enough. Lesson. True courage isn't about recognition or titles. It's about doing the right thing when no one else will, and protecting others, even when it costs you. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this story. I'm truly grateful for your time. If you found meaning here, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you again soon, right here on Rain Inside.